My close-up photography has been lacking in some way. I can't quite put my finger on it, but quite often I think it's about not having the level of control that I need. When I've been looking at other photographers' work, the ones that I admire, they seem to have cleaner backgrounds and better lighting, and things seem to be a little bit more controlled. So in an attempt to try and help with that, what I've done is I've gone out and bought an inexpensive set of reflectors and diffusers that hopefully I can use to improve some of my photography. So I've come out this morning to give it a go. Now this is the first time that I've actually ever used these, so you're kind of learning with me as we go along. So what I like about this photograph that I've actually just set up on is the backlighting that's coming through. Say backlighting, it's almost sort of like top lighting that's coming in from above and down onto the frame. And it's working quite well because the background is far enough away so it's going to be blurred. And I like the way that the flower, the stem, sort of starts on the bottom right hand corner and travels up across the frame towards the top left. And I've placed the flower on roughly on the third, and I've done it so that I can add a little bit of a vignette without taking anything out. It does mean that the bottom right hand corner of the picture is all a little bit heavier than the top in terms of subject matter, but I think that's going to be okay. So let me put the raw file up on the screen for you now whilst I sort out one of these reflectors to see if I can improve the lighting at all that we're looking at the moment. So the reflectors that I bought are from a company called Small Rig. Now I'm not actually sponsored by them by any way. I bought these with all my own money, and I already use one of their tripods as my video tripod. So when I saw this come up, because I'm quite pleased with the brand, I thought I'll give them a go. And I'm actually quite pleased with what's turned up. They're a little bit bigger than I sort of expected, and they come in and they've got several different sides to them as well. So on one side you can take this cover off, and then you've got silver, you've got a diffuser on the inside, you've got gold, you've got a black that you could probably use as a background, and obviously you've got white there as well. So, and that just zips up inside and it just keeps it all together, and then it folds up into the bag really quite nicely. So for this shot I'm going to try the gold reflector first. I may change, but I'll have a look, but it's gold that's sort of in my mind at the moment, because I just like the way that I can use it to bounce some of that gold light back onto the subject. There you can see when you get the angle right, you can vary it quite a bit. You can just see it on the side of my face and the impact that it's having. So I'm going to have a play with this and see if we can get this sorted out. So my composition is identical to what it was before. I'm really quite pleased with that and the way that works. This is just all about adjusting the lighting slightly. My idea about using the gold reflector was to breathe some warmth back into the image, because it is still early-ish in the morning, so we've got that early warm dawn light, and I wanted to enhance that a little bit more. But the other thing about this picture as well is because we've got the backlighting coming through, I thought that by having a little bit more front lighting reflected back into the scene, it might just lift the image slightly. Now what I found with the reflector is that the best way to use this was to kind of use it almost as a spotlight and move it around and bring it into place until you had the light exactly where you wanted. That's where using a cable release or the self-timer on your camera is probably going to help you, because you'll be able to sort these things out and make sure the lighting is exactly as you want it. Now we've had a little bit of breeze going through as well, so I've got to sort of wait for that to come down, and it just made me think really that quite possibly sometimes when it's a bit breezy you could also use a reflector or a diffuser or something to block some of that wind as well. So let's see how we can get on with this. The light's coming back up again, and just about ready to sort of take the photograph once more. Bouncing the light back onto the front of the subject certainly worked. The extra light allowed a more balanced exposure. Without the reflected light, the highlight along the top of the stem would have been much heavier. I removed the warmth from the gold reflector in post-processing. It was too strong for this subject. So I've set up on the same kind of flowers I had in the previous photograph. It's going to be a bit of a theme developing here. I might take the same type of flower next time as well. The problem that I've got with this image is that it's in very direct sunlight. In fact, you can see it coming from behind me here. In fact, all this is probably overexposed on the video. And that direct sunlight is creating a lot of contrast with the background, and the look that I want for this image is a very light and airy feel to it. So I want to just have these very similar subtle shades. I'll have to do quite a bit of work to actually bring those out and get some definition in it when I process the image. But what I need to do is reduce the contrast between the background and the subject itself. And the way that I can do that is by putting a diffuser in front of it. So using this side of the filter, this actually still allows light to pass through it, but it just reduces the amount going through. Now, I haven't used a diffuser before, so this may not work out 100% right. But what I've done is I've put the diffuser up above the camera and then allowed that just to block the light coming through. And that's sort of giving me a situation where I've got that reduced contrast. So let's take a couple of those pictures and we'll see what they come out like. The diffuser worked well. It reduced the light falling on the subject, preventing the highlights burning out. I was able to maintain the light and airy feel that I wanted, but I'm not sure this suits the background. The arrival of the fly provided much needed interest. So far so good. I've really enjoyed producing these photographs today. I've enjoyed using the diffuser to block some of the light and the reflector to bounce some warm light back into the image. But there's another problem with my close-up images, and I really enjoyed looking at other people's work where they have an exceptionally clean background. So one of the other problems that plagues my close-up photography is that I really dislike really messy backgrounds. Now, of course, a shallow depth of field can help, and that can blur things out to where it's insignificant. But sometimes you just don't want those colours and those tones to interfere at all. And something I've enjoyed seeing in other people's works is where they have those real plain white backgrounds and they look really, really good. Now, I'm not into studio photography, so I'm not going about setting things up and taking things back home. I want to do it out in the field. And it suddenly dawned on me this morning that actually I'm carrying a perfectly good white background with me on the other side of these diffusers. So I'm going to see if I can use that somewhere as a background to create a very stark graphic image, possibly quite high key, with just the flower and a white background and nothing else. And I think the flowers that we've been photographing are going to work really, really well for this subject. I've just got to find one that's in a different location. If you want to develop your skills as a landscape photographer, you're definitely going to need patience. And close-up photography is a great way to do that. This is proven to be particularly difficult though, and it's certainly trying my patience. I think the problem is that I thought putting a white background behind the subject would be really, really easy. But what I failed to realise was that because of the size of the reflector that I'm using, I have to bring it quite close to fill the frame. And that's given me some more concerns. I'm a little bit worried that it's going to pick up the texture and we're not going to get that nice clean background that I'm looking for. But we won't see that until we get it into processing, so fingers crossed we'll be okay. I've taken a few other shots without the background in, just in case, so that at least I've got something in the bag and it's not a complete waste. The idea with this picture is I've got two blooms or two sets of flowers that you can see in there. The top one is going to be the sharper one, although we're working with a fairly shallow depth of field because the light has fallen drastically now and the winds come up, so it's not ideal conditions. I'm composing it as a vertical 4:5 crop, but I think that'll contrast nicely with the other two images that I've produced, and it also sits and works with this subject really well. So the background itself, I've had to prop it up using a bit of old branch and twig that I've seen and the stool that I carry around, so hopefully that will work out okay. So I'll take this photograph and then we can see what the finished article looks like.
The white background worked out better than I expected. It's a bit tricky to set up, and I'm sure there are better subjects to follow, but it's added many new possibilities to my photography repertoire.
These reflectors have worked out to be really good for me today. I've enjoyed using them, and the light, small, fold up in the camera bag, and I think they'll become a regular accessory that I carry with me on my shoots, because it opens up a whole range of other subjects which I can now tackle more successfully. You may enjoy watching this video next, where I spend my time finding some hidden gems in a favourite woodland location.